Hello everybody, welcome to Project Beauty, where we talk about project panning and everything beauty related. My name is Jen. Today we are going to do a truck talk. Oh my gosh, boop boop. It has been so long since I have done a truck talk. You can tell by the angle, by the close-up, that I have not done one of these in a very long time. But the reason I wanted to do one is it's getting freaking cold out, and I'm going to probably have to turn my truck back on right away because it's so cold already. But also, I just really wanted to get on here and talk to you guys a little bit about my favorite panning tips and tricks. I feel like this is such an important topic because there's so many panners out there and every single person is different. Every single panner is different. We could try and be similar to somebody else, but our consumption, our collections, our skin types, our everything will be different. So you can never really go the whole way and be like, I'm exactly like this person or I'm exactly like that person, because that will never be true. However, you will always find people who are similar to you. So yeah, the panning situation is I feel like there's such a vast amount of information for panning, and there are some things that you can do to help yourself be very successful. And I have 25 tips and tricks for you guys with some subcategories within. Now, I'm just going to turn my vehicle back on because it's, like I said, it's so cold. Shh, that's enough. I don't have my seatbelt on. Oh no. That's going to be super annoying, isn't it? I want to go ahead and get started. So basically, these tips will help you for panning, for not overbuying, and also just help you get the best out of your panning journey. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The first thing I have is choose items you really want to use up or move out of your collection. So always look for the items that you think will sort of be something you're either not grabbing toward anymore. Maybe it's a little bit farther in the back of your, collection or storage. Something that you see every time you open up your drawer and you're just like, I am done looking at this thing, but I don't want to get rid of it. The best thing to do would be to try to use that then and see if it's something you want to keep, see if the formula has changed, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you're selecting items that you really want to use. And I'm not saying always use your oldest. All I'm saying is usually those are the things you want to move out of the collection because they're getting older. They're probably going to be expired. And let's face it, all of us have makeup that's probably 2 years or older in our collection, and guaranteed that is under the guidelines of being expired since opening. So also, when you're trying to select items that you want to move out of your collection or just things you really, really want to use up, maybe it is because the shelf life is very short. Or maybe it's something that you just really thoroughly enjoy and you're going to enjoy using it during your project. So those are the types of little subcategories you could use. You could use oldest, you could use items you really enjoy, items that you use on the daily, things that you forgot you even own that are way in the back, of your storage or whatever, in the deep darkness of everything, and you're just like, oh my gosh, totally forgot I had this. Oh my gosh, this one fell in behind my storage, all the things. Now, next thing is don't overwhelm yourself. Choose a number that is comfortable and doesn't cause anxiety. So, speaking from experience, sometimes I tend to do multiple projects. Last year, I felt like it was a comfortable amount. This year, I feel like I started off with a pretty comfortable amount, but I ended up adding a bunch more projects in, and therefore I had to close a few. So just make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself product wise and project wise. So for products, maybe don't bring in 12 blushes and one foundation and one brow product. Maybe switch that up so that you have a full face, or maybe you have 4 blushes, but each of them are different. So one is a warm peach, one is mid-tone, like warm pink, one is like a cool tone pink, and one is like a more mauvey purpley blush. So you have selection, okay? So just make sure that when you're selecting things, it's a good variety. Otherwise, if you're using the same color, like if 5 different blushes or 5 different eyeshadows are all like the same color, or like say you have 3 bronzers that are like the same shade, or you get the picture, it's going to be very overwhelming. And you're not going to know what to choose. Maybe you've chosen so many items and so many projects that you're like bringing in every single prompt, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to even grab today. And there's all these updates that have to go up. Well, let's face it, you don't have to do every single update if you don't want to. You can skip an update. Like you can do your update later. You can double up on your project or your product usage. So like whatever, and I'll get into all that later. But like all I'm saying is try not to overwhelm yourself. Keep it simple, especially if you're a newer panner. Try to keep it a little bit simpler so that you're not like, what did I get myself into? You know? So I feel like that's a really good one, because I tend to get overwhelmed at times because you only have one face, and then you realize just how much product there is in one container, and it's like, how am I ever going to get to use this? So let's face it, I don't think anyone ever goes into buying a full-on blush or whatever with the expectation of completing it before it expires. I don't think there's a single person alive who is not doing makeup artistry or some kind of whatever, just using it on their own face, that has ever gone through a blush in the time that it expired. Like, let's face it. So I just feel like we have to be a little bit gentler with ourselves, and if we do get overwhelmed, there will be tips in here to help you with that. Okay, so let's move along. The next one is fun. It's fun to support panners, but try to take part in the right number of projects you know that you will be successful with. So figure out an amount of projects that you want to like join. I know everyone sometimes is like, oh, I want to do this, my friend is doing it, I want to do that, this person I know created it, or whatever. And sometimes it's very hard and very overwhelming, and you can't always do everything and support everybody, because like I said, we're all different. And as much as we want to do, because this community is actually incredibly supportive, and there's a bunch of really amazing people in this community, so that's why you want to always support. But if you can't do that, there are projects like the Panner's Pan where you can show people out, or Throwback 30, and you can do something like that where you do like 30 different projects within one project. So not only are you shouting out that particular project, you're also shouting out the 30 projects within that project. So there's always ways around it to sort of get that support out there and show people that you want to support them. You can tag them, you can show them the item you selected, whatever, without going crazy and doing like 40 projects, because that's a lot. That's a lot of prompts. That's a lot of things to keep up with. Unless you literally have nothing else to do with your time. Like, I mean, that's going to be a lot. And then you can change it up each year too. You can do a project for 6 months. You don't have to do the whole thing. Like, you know, there's always other ways. Find Instagram pages or YouTube channels of panners who motivate you. So there's so many panners out there, and a lot of people will do the Panner's Pan, or I'm doing a project and this is the person who created it, or there's a group of people who just want to shout each other out, or they have their own collab. So you can always find other panners through the panners you're watching. There's always ways to find people. Also, I'm sure people will do hashtag Project Pan on Instagram. You can always find like project whatever and then see who's on it. So there's always ways to find other panners, but try to find people that motivate you, that excite you, or whose collection that you're interested in, or someone that you find relatable, because it will make you more motivated to pan, sometimes to buy, let's face it, but also to pan. The next thing I have is panning should be fun. You should start to get if you start to get overwhelmed, slow down, change things up, and don't pick new prompts, etc. So this is, again, speaking from experience, and all of this is, honestly. So recently I was doing way more projects than I could literally handle. I'm gonna take these off. I did way too many projects. It was just a lot for me, and I was like, okay, I'm getting overwhelmed. So when I updated, I believe it was my deck of panning, I said to myself, and on my video, like, I'm not picking any new prompts. I have like 3 rolling out or whatever it was. I'm not picking those, and then next time I'll add an extra prompt or something like that, because it was getting to be too much with all of the prompts that I was doing. Projects, prompts, products, all those words always combine. Because there were so many projects that I was working on, it got to be to the point where it was too much. And so I just needed to give myself a grace period of like, you know what, this time I'm going to not add anything new in. And then maybe next time I will allow myself to pull something if I feel comfortable. And also I noticed that I have been doing a lot of projects where I bring every single prompt in from the beginning so that I can get usage on all of those items. But then I find that my usage on those items fails because I have too many things to work on. So it's just a matter of deciding what is right for you and how you can change things to better suit your panning journey. And let's face it, it is a long journey. I think I started panning in 2013. That's when I started my YouTube channel, and that's when I did started project panning. And then I took like a 3-year hiatus in between there, and came back in the last couple years because I had my kid and I just wanted to like focus on that and everything. And it was just like the best thing I've ever done. But I did miss out on a bunch of people left, don't pan anymore. And then I came back and I was like, where is everybody? So I'm actually really thankful that I came back when I did, because I have met an amazing group of women on here who like to project pan and who are really similar with makeup with me and skincare and stuff. And they're just incredible, incredible people. And I feel like finding the right group of people, finding the right channels to watch, finding an amount of product that works for you keeps it so fun. And I feel like if you get overwhelmed, just make little adjustments here and there. You can change your product if you want. There are no panning police, just so you know. No one's gonna come at you and be like, excuse me, you have to use that until you said no. No. If I decide that I don't want to pan an item anymore, I'm going to pull it out. If I decide I want to declutter an item halfway through, good on me, because then I figured out like that is something that I no longer want to use. And then I bring something else in that I'm excited about, and then it makes it more fun again. So always try to make panning fun for you. That's the main goal. People are not going to be upset if you sort of tweak the way you want to do the prompt or the project, as long as you're still like participating, making sure they're shouted out if they've created a project, just doing your participation. Like, those are the most important things. I mean, granted, if you went in and try to change the whole project, that would be insulting. But if you're just like joining and you need to like switch out an item and stuff, nobody cares. It's all good. You do you, girl. Whoever you are, you do you. The next thing is make yourself a bin. Okay, pull products that you want to pull into future projects. So it's easy to select the items when you select a new prompt in a project, or pick a drawer. Like, it doesn't have to be a bin, it could be a drawer. But just make sure that you're pulling products out of your collection, out of your skincare cabinet, whatever, your hair care cabinet, whatever you're doing. Put it into a bin so that when you are doing a project, everything is in one bin. And if it'll say, oh, a hair care product, oh, a blush, oh, whatever, you can just go into that bin and look for that item. Or if it's like starts with a this or starts with a that and it's not in there, then you go through your collection. But this will help you like look at the products that you want to move out of your collection faster, and it's right at your fingertips. You just have to grab the bin and go through it. It's like a little trick or treat kind of bin, you know? Pull something out, work on it. I fully 100% like live by that. I constantly have drawers or some kind of something, basket, bin, whatever, in my vanity or on my vanity that I can pull products from, because it is just so much easier than going through your entire collection. I have had to do that at times, but it's definitely helpful to use the bin. The next tip and trick I have is have a plan. What is the most important to move out? Plan around these items. So let's just say let's just say you have like 75 primers. You got PR, you went and bought a bunch. There was like some kind of a holiday kit that you got like a crap ton of samples, and you want to move your product out. That's just too many for you. You're like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed. Like, I do not need this many. Plan around that item. Let's just say you have 10 minis that you know you can get one out a month. Well, then put all 10 of those in and it drops your total down to like 65 instead of, or sorry, 65 instead of 75. You know what I mean? Or if you have one that's super old that you just keep like avoiding using, grab that one and plan around that. Or let's just say you have like 3 that are partially used and like 2 little sample ones. This way you're looking at your total and being like, I can get this many out. These ones are gimme products. These ones are older. I can get all of these moved out within a year. I know how much I use in a year. Plan around those items. Also, let's say you have a Pan That face palette or a Pan That eyeshadow palette, and you're pulling in eyeshadows all left and right and center, and you're like pigments and all these things. That's going to put you back on your Pan That eyeshadow palette. So this way, if you're planning around your Pan That palette, you understand what to pull when it comes to your other projects. So it's always good to find out what your priority is and plan around that. So you're not, negating or not negating, but like, it's not going to put an obstacle in your way when it comes to your goals. And that will definitely make you feel like you've achieved more if you don't have so many obstacles. The next is, if you do pan that palette, an eye palette or a face palette, don't go heavy on eye or face items. Same idea as what I just said in other products, unless you are just going for usage goals. So here's the thing. I do a Pan That face palette, I do a Pan That eyeshadow palette, and I love that because I know I'm getting focus on a palette or 2 throughout the entire year. And I just love that. I do that almost every single year, and it's very rewarding for me to see my usage. Now, for a face palette, there's usually blushes or contours or under eye setting powders, whatever. So that means throughout the rest of the year, I don't pull a lot of like contour shades or under eye setting powders or blush. So unless I plan on giving myself a little bit of grace when it comes to the blush that's within that palette, maybe I don't want to just pan that one shade all year long. So then it's like, okay, fine. I'll make sure that I try to do as much focus as I can, but I'm not necessarily going to tell myself that this is the only blush that I can use the whole entire year until it's gone. So you have to decide what's right for you, but also make sure you're planning around items that are focuses so that you feel like you're making some kind of headway on those. The next is, it's okay to set minimal usage goals. So recently I just did a project where I brought an eyeshadow palette in for 2 uses. That was a gimme product for me. And I just wanted to get the uses. I just wanted to touch the palette. And I feel like that was so helpful. So I highly recommend that. It is the same day, same makeup, just a different location. I had to stop filming previously, so we're just going to continue on here. But we are talking about minimal usage goals, like smaller usage goals. So rather than completing a full item, maybe use a quarter of it or half of it, or 5 uses or 2 uses, whatever you feel like would make your achievement the most successful. Sometimes, like for example, I know Andrea does a lot of no pan left behind style on eyeshadows. So if you have like a 9 pan eyeshadow palette, instead of using it like 10 times, you can just reach for each individual shade once so that you've touched every single eyeshadow in the palette. So I started doing that with a few. I also like using usage goals because I tend to reach for the deepest shade in the palette as well as the lightest shade quite often, and then the ones in between I sort of play around with. So sometimes I'll do 2 uses, sometimes I'll do 5, sometimes I'll do 10. It just depends on the item. So if it's a small item, I go for completion, like if it's a mini or whatever. Sometimes lipsticks I'll do completion, but also like, for example, like J-Lon will do like a quarter of a bullet, use a quarter of that lipstick. So it just makes it more achievable. Your whole collection, or most of your collection, is getting touched and used instead of hyper focusing on just one item. So if you feel like that would be more beneficial to you, definitely do that. If it's going to make your panning a success, definitely do that. And I think we all sort of pick and choose which items we want to get uses out of and which items we want to complete. So that's just another, why is my light flickering? That's just another way to help yourself while you're trying to achieve other things. So for example, I do a Pan That Face palette. So when I do my Pan That Face palette, I try to complete everything completely. That doesn't mean I want to focus on that one blush for the entire year. So in other projects, I'll use other blushes like 5 times or 2 times or whatever. Some of them I put goals that I can't achieve, and then I reduce them if I feel like it's just too much for me. So also go back to your initial goal and think to yourself, like, is this going to be too much? Is this going to be achievable for me? It's okay to change that if you want to. If it's going to help you, it's totally okay to change that. You don't have to stick with your original assessment or your original idea of what you thought was going to be good. You can change that. The one thing I feel like is most important, and it's something that I brought up in my original, like in the intro part of this video, was do not compare yourself to other people. You cannot compare yourself, in a sense that everybody is so different in the way of how we pan. Like for example, myself, I like to use my eyeshadows all the way across the top. I don't like to hit pan like it looks like little like buckshots or like little bullet holes through everything. For me, that doesn't make me like feel like I've achieved something because I've like stuck to one little area. That's not saying that that's bad for everybody. I'm not saying that because that's not good for me, that should be the way everybody is like it, you know, the same way. What I'm saying is it just doesn't work for me. So if it works for someone else and they feel like that is going to make them more successful and that is their goal to do that in each palette and stuff, then that's amazing. And honestly, the people that do that, more power to you, because I cannot do that. My mind tells me I have to use my eyeshadows, my bronzers, everything clean across the top as best as I can. Now, I know like when you put your brush in there, it's going to make a dip regardless of where you put your brush, but I try my best to use the whole top part of it so it's not just going straight to the pan. But not everybody's like that, and that's okay. We're all very different, so that's why you can't compare yourself to other people. So like everybody uses their products differently. Not everybody wears makeup every single day. We live in different climates, so maybe our needs or our items that we use are not going to be the same all the time. It's just there's too many variables to compare yourself to other people. So really, really try not to do that. I'm not going to say that that's an achievable goal there. Honestly, I think everybody will compare themselves to somebody at some point, but just something to keep in mind, that there's just so many variables that there's no way that you could literally be the same as anybody else ever. So just wanted to make sure that that one was emphasized. The next one is, it's better to declutter than to hate pan. This is a big one as well because I have come across quite a few items, and I'll actually show you one, which I will bring up a couple times. This one is by Makeup Revolution. It is a Vivid Baked highlighter. I've owned this, oh my gosh, probably 8 years. I'm not gonna lie, probably 8 years. It's a beautiful highlighter, love the color, but it's a little bit peachy pink for me, and I more so like a gold highlighter. It's beautiful, it's very glowy, it's stunning, it's inexpensive. I got this at Ulta like years and years and years ago, before the pandemic even, and I barely used it, and I have so much highlighter. So I think what like my mindset is, I'm not hate panning it, but I'm also not using it. I put it in a project. Okay, let's pull it back a little bit. This was in my collection sitting there, barely used. You can see at the very top, like right here, this is about the only part that I've got any kind of progress on. And most of that is from swatching, not from using. So when I picked these up, I grabbed them because they were glowing highlighters, but I hate the packaging. It's so bulky. It's just too much. It looks cheap. It doesn't want to stay closed. It doesn't like, it doesn't even, like, I could probably open it from the side. Like, it doesn't want to stay closed. The compartment is just, ugh. Therefore, I'm like not drawn to this product. I'm drawn to my middle end items or higher end items that I have that are more alluring. The package is nicer. It's not as chalky kind of thing. That's not to say that this is a bad product. It's actually, like you can see, it's a very nice product. But because the packaging is cheap, I tell myself that it's an inexpensive, cheap product. So I'm not hate panning it. I just don't grab for it. But there are items that you could potentially like hate pan, like you literally are using something because you put out like say $50 for it and you want to get your money's worth and it's too late now, you can't return it and nobody else wants it because it's too old now. All these things, and you have to get those uses. You don't have to get those uses. If it's expired, if you don't enjoy it, if you don't like it, just declutter it out of your life and like maybe don't buy that again. Maybe you know in your mind that is not the type of item for you. Don't buy that again. Make a mental note. Hell, maybe even make a paper note or something. Keep yourself accountable. You know that's not something that's going to be beneficial for you. Don't put your money out on that in the future. That was a learning experience. Is an expensive one, but then you don't have to make it again. Just don't hate pan. It is not worth it. It is not fun. You're going to absolutely despise it. There are the odd projects where you pick, say for example, I'm bringing up deck of panning again. You pick the Joker and it's something you don't want to pan. Or there's other projects where it's project 100 uses. If I had to use this for 100 uses, I could definitely do it because it's a really nice product. But let's say it's a product that I absolutely do not want to use, like a pigment that's just like a most generic shade that doesn't offer any like oomph or anything like that. And I have to use that thing 100 times and I realize I just absolutely do not like that product and don't want to force myself. Then I'm going to get rid of it and not use it or pass it along. And maybe find another item that will fit that better than something that I hate. Are you joking? Or 100 uses is not necessarily something that you can't stand or something that's like super hard to use, but it's definitely something that is hard to use up, not hard to physically use it. Like a red lipstick. Not everybody wears red lipstick every single day. And for those who do, that's awesome. Perfect. I love that for you. But for someone like me that wears more neutral lipsticks, red lipstick is not something I wear every single day. It's taking me all year to pan a red lipstick. I'm not hate panning it because I actually really love it. But some people will maybe hate pan a liquid lipstick, say for example, and it's not the right shade for them or whatever. That is hate panning, not something that's hard to pan. It's something you absolutely despise panning. So there's a different way to look at it than like, yeah, you just have to really take those prompts and not make them something that is absolutely traumatizing for you to use. Make it something that's great, but really hard to use and that you really have to put that effort in, you know? All right, so the next one is gimme products help keep up the feeling of success and motivation. So always putting in foil packets, say 5 little foil packets count as 1 full item, or getting deluxe size samples, something like this for free from Sephora with your order. Something like this would be relatively easy to use in less than a month probably. That would be an easy rollout. Those are always really good options. Also, let's say, for example, you had this MAC Prep and Prime lipstick. I have lots, or lip primer, sorry. I have lots left in here, but let's say you had like this much left. Pull that sucker in and make it a prompt. Get it out as soon as possible, and then you have 1 item done. And hey, a back to MAC too. So there's always things that you can do to keep yourself motivated, keep yourself going. Sometimes I like to push myself and put full items in at the beginning of the year and try to use them throughout the entirety of the year, because usually by September, October-ish, those items are coming out of my collection, and then I can pull in another new item and work on that until the end of the year. And that gives me, like, say, 2 to 4 months to start on another brand new item and get almost half use or a third of the use, put that back in my collection, and then, hey, pull it out in the next year and it's already got a bunch of use on it. So it really just matters of like how you're looking at stuff. And also really try and get those gimme products, really try and get the usage on things so that down the road you have usage in your collection. Just getting a little bit of use is not a bad thing. Using up something like this and having an empty, it feels very rewarding. So definitely do that. The next one is partial goals help future success. Put in the full items on usage goals so that your future self has close to complete items. So that is, again, going back to the whole like Jaylon example where she uses like a quarter of her lipstick or a half of a lipstick bullet. Or let's say I wanted to take my MAC Fix Plus and just use it up until the top of the C in the word coconut. Then I'm like, okay, I'll use it up till this point and I'll put it back into my collection and grab another Fix Plus if I had one, or whatever I wanted to grab in its place. Just switch it out so that everything is getting a little bit of love. That means in the future, you'll have more items that have usage on them. I'm a hyper focuser. That's how I pan. I like to hyper focus on all my products. I don't want to have like 4 things being used at the same time that are the same item. If I have, for example, I had 4 primers pulled into different projects, I will focus on one until that goal was met. Then I focus on the other until that goal was met, etc. I like to hyper focus on my products. I feel like that's where I'm more successful, rather than trying to use like one use here, one use here, one use here. Other people might be way more successful that way because it's more variety. It's a little bit more fun, where I'm the opposite of that. Although sometimes with blushes, I like to do that because it doesn't always go the same, like one blush doesn't go with every look. So I tend to pull in quite a few blushes with very minimal goals, but it really depends on what you're trying to do with your project. So it's always good to try to like set minimal goals or partial goals. That helps in the future as well, because then your collection is getting used, like all of it, not just the hyper focus items. The next prompt is find multiple uses on items to help completion process. So for example, a brown eyeshadow, okay, you can use that for brow powder if it matches your hair color, a contour powder. You can Franken it into a bronzer or a contour powder. You can use it as a crease shade, maybe a smoky eye for all over the eye. All kinds of uses for brown eyeshadow. And this is where my little examples come in. We have highlighters. So for highlighters, you can put it on all the high points of your face, not just here. So say down the bridge of your nose, just above your brow arch, on the Cupid's bow, just on the high point of your chin, that kind of stuff. And even on your décolleté, shoulder bones, whatever, the tips of your shoulder, all that kind of stuff, to give that extra usage, get that extra usage on your highlighter. Also crush it into a lotion. This is something that I have been doing with, and I will be doing with this product right here. I have 2 of these. I'm going to use the gold one a little bit, and then eventually I'll put that in a lotion. This one I'm going to pull from the project, and I'm going to put this one into a lotion for sure to use up because it's getting old and I just want to get it used. So that one's going to go into a lotion. You can crush it into a liquid bronzer, and that way it gives it more luminosity if you want to look like super glowy bronzy. You can put it for your inner tear duct if you're okay waiting a very long time and getting, slow usage. It'll still go down eventually. It's just a tiny little area, but at least it's an extra use. You can also put it on your nails for nail polish. You can put it into a clear lip gloss, and you can do this with eyeshadows as well, which I'll talk about in a second. But if you have a clear lip gloss, you can also crush eyeshadows into a little bit, like do the science, right? Like take a little bit into a container of a lip gloss, a little bit of the eyeshadow color or your highlighter, and put that into the lip gloss and mix it up, and then you have a new lip color out of all those items. So if you're trying to find multiple uses for things, the lip gloss thing or the nail polish thing, those are all really, really good things. And also the lotion, I totally stand by. And also for eyeshadow, you can put it, like I said, on nail polish. You can crush it into a lip gloss, or for something a little more vibrant for blush, you can crush it down and mix it in with, say, like a foundation powder or something to make yourself a blush. Or also you can use a mixing medium and create different color eyeliners. So there's a lot of different ways to use your items if you want to do that way and you want to try and super focus and you're so close on finishing. There's always going to be multiple ways to use your products. For face primer, say you absolutely hate panning a face primer. There's something you don't like. It's not the consistency. It's not holding your product on. Throw that into a body lotion. You're going to use the body lotion anyway. It's not going to feel super tacky because it's all over your whole body. So throw that into a lotion. For mascara, you can do eye art. Like you can just push it on the outside parts of your makeup and give yourself a little bit of eye art. Or if you're absolutely desperate, you can use it for your grays. That might be a little bit like much, but I mean, I'm grasping there for mascara, okay? And then for lipstick, you can use it as like, say, a cream blush or something, okay? Also, liquid lipsticks are very good for that as well. And then for loose translucent powder, now this is like, tread lightly here. Like, don't quote me, like try it on your own first, but try it as a dry shampoo. You know, as long as you really mush it into the root or whatever to make sure that it soaks up, maybe you can use it as a dry shampoo. Like, just try things just to get the uses, if you're absolutely desperate, of course. But the multi-use thing is a really good option. I feel like if you're absolutely desperate to get those uses in, you're so close to reaching your goal, try all the things. Of course, do a patch test. Make sure you have no reactions. Like, I'm not saying put things where they shouldn't be if they're going to cause a reaction or bodily harm. Like, it's nothing like that, okay? Let's all be real here. Okay, so the next thing is use 2 products for 1 application. And what I mean by that is use 2 different cream blushes, mix them together and throw them on. Or use 1 cream blush and then set it with a powder blush. Or use a different nail polish color on each individual nail, or use, like, say for all of your fingers except for this one color, and then this one would be a different color kind of thing, you know, or do half and half. That way you have 2 different nail polishes that get a use. So then next one would be, if you're going for uses, use multiple items in one look. So for example, say you have 2 or 3 eyeshadow palettes that you're using, you have like 5 uses on each. Maybe try and pull in 2 of those eyeshadow palettes and use a couple shadows from each eyeshadow palette. Or again, you have 2 or 3 blushes and you want to pull in 1 cream one and 1 powder one to put on the same look. That's going to be 1 use per item. So that gives you that extra use against your goal. Next is going for completion. And so if you're trying to complete an item, try to hyper focus. That is the way I pan. I find I'm very successful that way. At the same time, it's hard. You have to consider the seasons. If you tan, like for example, foundation, concealer, all that kind of stuff. So for me, I hyper focus on items. And once the season switches and my skin shade changes, I switch up and I hyper focus on that other item. So for foundation, I don't know that I will ever complete 1 foundation in a single year because my skin shade changes so drastically throughout in a year that I need at least 2 or 3 different color foundations to get me through that year. There's no way that I could just use one single foundation to get me through an entire year. So what you could do then is take, you know, a sample of foundation, or what I did is I got one of these little freebie foundations from Sephora in a much darker shade, and so I add them into my lighter foundations to make them darker. This did not cost me anything. I can still count it as an empty. I can still put it towards my end goal if I complete an item like this, just for trying to reach a certain value or whatever, if that's what your goal is. But also then I have this for a color changer. So that really helps out, and it's not too big. And if I need to, say, toss it or pass it along because it's coming close to being expired, it hasn't put me out of any money or anything. So there's always little ways to help yourself without breaking the bank. So just keep that in mind as well. But if you're trying to complete items and you have, like, say, for example, I wanted to complete this MAC Face and Body Foundation, this was my goal. I'm right here. This is all I have left. And you can see in the beginning of the year, I got a lot of usage because this is my shade. In the summertime, it started dwindling down to next to nothing because this was not my shade and I mixed it in with a deeper shade. So just to try and get some of that usage. So I do have to hustle. This is something that matches me now, which is great. But in the months that I needed a deeper foundation, that's where that little foundation comes in and I can still get use and hyper focus on that one item to try and get it out. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, I'm not done yet, but if you have any questions, leave your comments and questions down below. I'm happy to try and help the best way I can. The next one I have here is Franken Products. So I know I touched a little bit on just stating Franken Products are a good way to multi-use your products, but also to discuss a little bit of Franken Products. Like, for example, the highlighter in the lotion. So I like to do that because when I'm done that lotion, that means I have 2 completed items out of my collection. I won't cancel out the highlighter, like I won't use it as an empty until I've completed the lotion. But frankening those together means I don't have to declutter this. It means I get full use of this, but it's not like an extra step, or it doesn't cause me grief, or I'm not hate panning. So frankening some products together can help you really enjoy the products that you are wanting to use without wasting. I'm not a super fan of frankening eyeshadows. That's just personal. I'm just not interested in that. I don't press them very well. I haven't made very good shades, to be completely honest. I don't know. It's just not my thing, I think. And that's my mentality going into creating. And then I'm just like, this is not for me. So for those who do that, like, for example, Jessica, I think that's so amazing because you're able to get multi-use out of your products. You can use them. Like, for example, Jaylon too, she's using one of her palettes for the year. And she's frankening into different colors because the colors that are in her eyeshadow palette, she doesn't really love. So she's trying to get use other ways. And that's great. That is so fantastic. I think frankening like a blush or something would be really fun. But for me personally, I'm not interested in frankening eyeshadows. I feel like I'm not drawn to even using them. It's just a waste kind of for me personally. But it is a good, if you can do it and you can enjoy doing it, I highly recommend it because you will definitely get use on something that maybe you didn't want to get use on if it was in its original form. So that's definitely something to consider. The next one says, looking for new products to do, check out the Fantastic Ladies Facebook group. So 100% I recommend. If you are a new panner, if you are new to YouTube, or you just started your channel, or you've been on YouTube forever and you've just been doing the 17 in 2017 or 20 in 2020 kind of projects, and you're like, I need to do something else. I see people doing these projects and I don't know what to do or where to go. Check out the Fantastic Ladies group on Facebook. There are so many projects on there. There are so many great panners on there. And also on Instagram, like, check out like hashtag projectpan. Excuse me. Also on YouTube, you can check that out as well. There's always going to be different groups and different people that you can check out. So I really highly recommend that you check out the Fantastic Ladies group because it's such a fantastic group of ladies and everyone there loves panning. Everyone there loves makeup and skincare and stuff. So definitely recommend you check that out. Also, keeping track of empties, totaling your items and or for the values and also samples, etc. Okay, so that was like a whole mishmash right there. But basically what I mean by that is it's a good idea to do an empties video each month. If you can, like, compile it for the entire year so that you can physically see how much you got out in 1 year. So I do a monthly videos or a monthly empty video, obviously every month. So each month I tally all of my products money-wise. and I tally the value of items, like the quantity of items that I used in that month. And then I do that each month, and I save all of the products in a huge bin or a box, depending on what room I have. And I save everything until the end of the year. And so each month I do a small video, and at the end of the year, I put everything out on a blanket and I show every single thing that I used in that year. And this year it is mind blowing how much I've used. Like I already reached my 5K for the year, which my goal was to reach $5,000 of used up skincare, hair care, body care items, perfume, makeup, all that stuff by the end of the year. And I reached that goal, which is so exciting. By the end of October, I was able to do that, and I'm very, very, very thankful. But one thing I wanted to mention is the samples. I never used to calculate any freebies or samples, and I was missing out. Let me tell you, I probably had thousands of dollars worth of samples that I never counted because, first of all, I thought it would be a nuisance to do it. I actually love tallying my samples, like finding out the average per mil and then totaling how many mils there are in a product. I love that. I have so much fun doing that. And so it actually shows me, like, for example, I have like a little Shiseido essence. It's like 10 mils, and that's a $20 sample that I got for free. If say you have 5 of those, that's $100 of free product that I'm counting in my empties, which is amazing. Like, I don't know why I never did it before this year, but I'm regretting that I never counted my samples before this year. So definitely recommend. It will change your mindset, especially on the usage of samples. You get a lot of bang for your nothing, actually. For just buying something, you get these free items, and you get a lot of bang for that. Like, just for buying something, you get this free thing. And honestly, it's totally worth it. I highly recommend you check that out. So try it once, maybe see if you like it. I absolutely love it. Maybe it's not for everyone, but it's just a recommendation. And then we have, let me see. Okay, mark or weigh your items. So it's very visually satisfying to weigh or mark any kind of items that you're using. I don't even know if I have anything in front of me that has tickies on it. I don't think I do. But in my bathroom, that's where I have my lotions and all that kind of stuff that have ticky marks on them. And it shows like how much I used per month. And it's so visually satisfying to see how much, then you know, like, okay, I've used like, say, this much of a huge bottle of lotion from here to here. That's how tall the lotion is. And I've used this much of this product up in 5 months. That means this should last me about 4 months left of the year. That means around this time in between here is when I need to replace it, right? So that you're not just like buying 30 backups and having, 30 backups of a lotion that are going to go bad before you use them. It's very visually appealing. It's so rewarding to see all those. And it's nice to see the difference in month. Like in the summertime, maybe I won't use as much lotion, where in the wintertime, I go crazy with lotion because it's so dang dry and my skin is so dry. And like, I'm just like, it's like dry skin, and lotion it up, like using all the lotion. I'm getting way bigger ticky marks, like maybe not the ticky marks, but like the usage between way bigger. And it's just, you can see the difference in the years or the months, whatever. It's so rewarding. Like, highly recommend you do that. If you don't have a scale, I definitely recommend you get a scale, or at least, and I'm going to talk about this next, but take pictures of your products so that you can see the actual visual usage, because that is also very rewarding. You may look at your product like, I have been using this thing for 4 months and I do not see any difference. It's like when you're losing weight. Same thing. You're like, look at me, I look the same as I did 4 months ago. But you take a picture or you put on that shirt or those pants or whatever, and you're like, wow, these are loose. It's really hard to tell, because you're looking at it every single day or every single time you're using your makeup. You're not going to see that difference. So it's definitely rewarding to take the pictures, and you can see them each month. It makes a difference, trust me. So I recommend check Amazon for just a cheap, or I shouldn't say cheap, an inexpensive scale. I'll show you mine. I I can't remember how much this was, probably less than $20 Canadian. And this one has decimal places. So if I want to check my grams of the scale, like I use the grams when I'm weighing my product. So if, say for example, I had the one before this was only in like single digits, it was like, you know, 15 grams, next month 15 grams, next month 15 grams, next month, oh, 14, okay, yay. This one, it's like 15.52, 15.48, 15.36. You can actually physically see a little bit of usage on the weigh scale, and it makes it a lot more rewarding to physically see. Even if you get that one use, you're still going to be able to see that. So I highly recommend a scale for sure, and pictures, all the things. Next is be consistent, especially with skincare. If you're using your products, and that is the hugest thing I can say to you guys, use your products. That is the whole, I wanted to end on that one, but I'm doing it now. Just use your products, okay? Touch your products, find a way to get as much items touched as possible per use. Skincare routine is the best way. If you have tons of skincare, make sure you have one of each thing in your bathroom or wherever you do your skincare, so that when you're in front of that mirror, you can do each of your steps and you're touching each of those products. You can have your AM and your PM separated, great, fine, whatever, do you. But if you say you only want to do a skincare or a cleansing balm, maybe a serum and a moisturizer, great. Just make sure you're touching those. Make sure you're actually physically using them. Also, check out videos and see how to better use. Make sure that you're not just wasting, but that you're getting the best use of your product and you're still seeing the usage because you're just touching and using your products. Same thing with makeup. I feel like it's so rewarding to have a top to bottom sort of routine. So for me, I start with my forehead. Always, because if I do my brows first and then I go to my forehead, I get a bunch of powder in the hairs because I have tons of eyebrow hairs. So I always do my forehead makeup first, then I move down to the eyes. Sometimes I don't do anything from my under eyes down, or sometimes I'll just put a hint of concealer because I barely use any concealer. And then a little bit of pressed powder, and that's it. And I don't use anything else. That's when I realize, okay, hey, I have all these blushes and projects. I'm not getting any uses on them. Start touching those products. If you're looking like, okay, I have all these blushes, I haven't been able to roll any out, that means you're not using it. That means you're not touching it. Try to touch your products. I'm doing it again. So yeah, it's super simple. Just use it. Use your products. That's the most simple advice I could possibly give you and the most successful advice I could possibly give you. And then we have repress your pans. So if you have a product that is coming close, and I'll show you one of mine actually. If you have a product that is coming close to needing to be repressed, any one of these, this one's probably not ready yet, but this one for sure, I could repress this if I wanted. It's actually good. I'm probably not going to do that for some time, but something like this, I would definitely recommend pulling it all out of there, mushing it down to the powder form, like loose form, and then repressing it into the middle center, because that's where your brush is going to go. If you're doing it like this, you're barely going to get any use on that brush or any product on that brush, and chances are you're going to probably touch some of the stuff around the edge of it. So repressing is so good. Plus, once you repress it, I'm going to be honest here, it's going to loosen your product a little bit because we do not press like a machine presses. So you're going to get a little bit more usage, a little bit more kick up. It's going to move faster. So repressing will also help you get through your products faster. If you don't complete the items by the end of the project or intended goal, that is totally okay. Throw it in another project at another time. So, and I think this is one of those projects that is perfect for that, which is Graveyard Project Pan. I absolutely love that it's a 6-month project. Sorry, I need to drink this again. But also, I appreciate that there are resurrection products, which means if you haven't reached your goal on a product in another project, say you put 10 uses on an eyeshadow palette and you only got 8 by the end of the project, those last 2, that's totally fine because you touched that palette 8 times. That's fantastic. then you didn't finish it, pull it into that project and maybe get those other 2 uses you wanted to get or something. Okay, there's always going to be ways you can get more uses later, but don't be hard on yourself if you don't reach those goals. It is not the end of the world. Okay, there's always going to be a time for you to pull those products in and use them whenever you can. Just don't be hard on yourself. Panning, again, it's supposed to be fun. So I think, is that everything? I think that's all. I think that's all 25 of my tips. That was a lot of things for me to go through. I'm sure I had more, but those are really the ones that I feel like are the most helpful, especially for myself. So I hope those helped you in some way. I hope it brought light to maybe looking at your products a little bit differently or looking at your goals a little bit differently. If you have any questions, any concerns, maybe not concerns, I really hope you don't have concerns, but any questions, any kind of, you just want to communicate with me, or maybe give me or everyone else who's looking in the comments your favorite panning tip, leave that down below. I would absolutely love that. Or you can hit me up on Instagram. I don't have my board here, but it's Zyzo Beauty. So yeah, hit me up there if you want to as well, if you're not comfortable leaving a comment here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I will have so much more content coming to you guys for November and December, and you do not want to miss it. I also have my inventory videos coming up, probably going to be posting those in December. So keep your eyes peeled because that is outrageous. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.